on today's question post, hands and finger questions. Check it out. Alright, and welcome to the new post on the student questions topics. So if you're unfamiliar with this, if you haven't watched the first one, the idea behind these are to collect any of the questions that we find as we go out and try to get the best beginner content out there, out online, as well as aggregate any questions that are left in the comments on YouTube or emailed to us through the website, and just create a space to answer your questions as you begin the journey of learning guitar. So by all means, reach out and let us know what questions you might have. So I have 5 questions here to run through that we found, and let's get to it. Question number 1. Will finger flexibility improve over time on guitar? Yes. Now with that, there was a flexibility question on the first episode, so go check out that video. But a similar response to that one. If you are looking to get wider stretches, on your chords or soloing, right, to be able to get that multi-fret stretch there, make sure you're warmed up first. Don't just try to do these super wide stretches when you're cold and haven't warmed up. You're more likely to hurt yourself if you do that. And we don't want any barriers to keep learning guitar. So over time your fingers are just going to get used to playing. You'll get more used to the guitar that you're using, your go-to guitar. And you'll develop preferences as to what type of guitar you like. Is it acoustic? Is it electric? Is it a fat neck, a wide neck, thin neck? String spacing, do you like it wider or thinner or closer? All of these things add up into, whether or not you're having fun, or, is it a pleasurable experience to actually play the instrument that you have. So over time these things will develop. You'll learn, what you like, what you don't, what to try, areas to experiment, and that's the fun of playing. So, just keep it up, and, as your technique will get better, you'll be able to try new things. So maybe that stretch that was really hard when you were first starting out becomes really easy just because, your the small muscles in your hand are more developed, and your hands are more used to actually stretching in that way, right? So guitar, like anything, is a craft, and you need to develop that muscle memory. So over time things do get better, but again, it's better to be disciplined in your approach so you don't develop the bad habits in the beginning. So all right, question 2. How do you tremolo pick faster? For those of you unfamiliar with tremolo picking, it's where you're going really, really fast, and you're almost recreating a mandolin type picking sound. So it may or may not be in time. Happy to have that debate later. But regardless, the mechanics of it is that you're picking really, really fast to get that type of sound. And if you're trying to do it, or you're struggling to capture that technique, you might have a tendency to tense up and really dig in, and that's not what you want to do. Actually, counterintuitively, you need to be more relaxed, and being more relaxed allows you to pick not only faster but more cleanly, because you're not overemphasizing, or you're not attacking too hard with your pick or with your hands. Also, just being more relaxed and playing faster, just allows you to not be as fatigued as quickly. So you'll be able to play longer and and better. So as you try to attack this technique or tremolo picking, you know, do sort of a body scan. Check, you know, what's my posture? Am I tensing up? If you're tensing up in your arm or, you know, forearm, elbow, then, you know, make sure that you consciously relax that and practice picking as fast as you can. So that's what I would recommend for that. Number 3. Here's a question from a lot of beginning students that you get. How long does it take for your fingers to get used to playing guitar? You know, when you start guitar, your fingers don't naturally press on metal strings, right? So you're gonna have to develop those calluses, and yes, it does hurt in the beginning, but it gets better because your fingers develop those calluses, and you do just have to take some time. Now, for those of you who found your dad's or your uncle's or, you know, big sister's guitar in the closet and you dusted that thing off, you know, it might be really old strings that are hurting your fingers. So, you know, try restringing the guitar with some fresh strings, and that can help. I know if I've been playing a guitar for too long and haven't changed the strings, the strings can start to feel sharp. And, you know, at that point, they're well beyond time of needing a restringing. So that might be one place to start. Restring your guitar, do some maintenance on it. But if you're both brand new to the guitar and you have the old guitar, then you're just going to have to start practicing and getting those reps in, and your fingers will develop the calluses over time. And, you know, it just takes time, like anything worth doing, right? It just takes time. So stick with it. Don't force yourself if it really hurts. Practice for a little bit, take some time off, let your hand, you know, calm itself down, relax a little bit, develop some calluses, heal itself, and then go back, play some more. And, you know, as those calluses develop, it will cease to be a thing that you worry about. Yeah, so that's the answer for that. There's not a definitive answer. I wish I could say it's 3 months, but I can't. It totally depends on how often you play, how long your practice sessions are, and a whole bunch of other factors that, you know, some guitarists will go into crazy land with, like refusing to do the dishes, which I couldn't get away with that in my life. I don't know how they handle it, but yeah, so just put in the reps and practice. Question 4. How do you prevent hand cramps during bar chords? This is similar to, you know, just hand cramping when you're playing or when you're soloing, playing lead lines. And similar to the tremolo picking, actually, too, because if you are tightening up, if you're pressing down too hard with your fingers, if you can see the blood rushing out of your fingers, your fingertips, or, you know, your entire finger if you're doing the bar chord, your hand pressure is probably too much, and you'll need to back that off and actually practice how much pressure you can apply without hurting yourself. So, you know, what's the least amount of pressure that you can play with? So there's a deliberate practice there. Yeah, and it just, you know, as you play, if you find yourself, if your body's reacting in a way that it starts to hurt, or, you know, you get that kind of negative feedback, then, you know, just stop, do that sort of body scan, like, what's my posture, you know, are my feet on the ground, am I hunched over, is my strap, you know, pulling down on me, you know, all those things. Do that scan. Is my hand position off? You know, is my elbow like tucked in like this, or is it out more? go ahead and do that, figure out what's going on, and slowly address the issue, right? Part of it too, especially in the beginning, is, pressing down with a bar chord. That is a new task, and your hand's just going to have to get used to it. You're going to have to develop those small muscles to be able to do that. So start small. Don't try to tackle a 6-string bar chord right away. If you're struggling, break it down into smaller things. Do the top 3 strings, do the top 2 strings, whatever's more comfortable, and then slowly march it across so that you then have that 6-string bar chord. And yeah, go from there. Again, slow, sort of deliberate practice with that one. So question 5, how do you stretch your fingers for guitar? I'm gonna go ahead and choose to think of this one as, some warm-up. There's again, with the finger flexibility question at the beginning of this video, don't start doing huge stretches along the neck when you're not warmed up. You're just going to ask for trouble if you do that. So go ahead and do some warm-ups, do some picking, start at the higher frets to get your fingers moving, and then slowly back it down the neck so that your fingers are more naturally stretched out, and and build up to it. Now, if you want actual warm-up stretches, I would say target, again, I'm not a doc, I don't do physical therapy, I'm not any of that. This is just what I use for my warm-ups. Anything that targets the shoulder or these arm muscles are worthwhile. So pulling the arm across here, pulling your hand out like this or down like that, it can be good. Anything like this I find really helps, especially getting the muscle here. That's what works for me. Do some digging, see if we can find some more research on that or what works there. But just start out slow, warm up a little bit, and that should get your fingers going. Otherwise, do some simple stretches that you learned in PE class and get that going. So as always, a transcript of this along with links to additional resources or other lessons that apply to the topics that we talked here will be on the website, beginningguitaronline.com. Feel free to drop whatever questions you might have, any comments you might have down in the comments below if you're on YouTube, or if you're watching on the website, ask your question via the contact form. So have fun practicing. Hope to see you in the next episode, and take care.